Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's virtual discussion, Parents at the Table, Inclusion of Parent Voice in Program and Service Design. My name is Iris Alent. I'm a consultant for the Funders Group, and I'm going to be helping to moderate today's discussions. Before we begin, I'd love to just see who's on the line. I see a lot of faces that I'm not familiar with, so if you could please chat your name and where you're dialing in from in the chat, that would be great. We'll give folks just a few seconds to chime in and introduce themselves. And while we're waiting on that, a few housekeeping things to note. This virtual discussion is being recorded. It will be sent to everybody who registered. If you would want to disable your video at any point, please feel free to do so. And everybody is in mute, so listen only mode during the first portion of today's discussions when we hear from our presenters. But we do encourage discussion. So please, during the presentation portion, feel free to add your questions in the chat box. And then when we transition to our open Q&A, if you have questions, you can either click your microphone to request to be unmuted, or you can type questions in the chat box. And this will help us manage some of the audio and mitigate background noise. Next slide, please. All right, so this virtual discussion is 1 hour in length. Our first portion is going to be dedicated to hearing from our speakers about a pilot to infuse parent voice into program and service design and delivery. And this has been done across 4 organizations and parent staff teams. We're going to hear from one of those teams today. And then in the second half of our session, we'll have an open discussion with our speakers. Next slide. So today's virtual discussion was organized by the Funders Group on Parent Organizing, Family Engagement, and Leadership Development. The Funders Group is a collaborative network of foundation professionals from about 20 different diverse grant-making organizations across the country. And this group is really focused on improving philanthropic practice to really better support and partner with and elevate the voice and leadership of parents and caregivers, so that families are really centered in decision-making of the programs and policies that affect them. We're focusing today's topic on this approach because it's a really great example of the ways that funders can partner with grantees and parent leaders to amplify their voice. And there are a lot of different important insights that they've gleaned through this process that has really helped them both pre-COVID and during this current state of crisis that we thought would be really valuable to share with our larger group. Next slide. So I am really honored to introduce our many panelists for today. We're joined today by Toyin Anderson, a PLTI parent leader with the University of Rochester Medical Center team. Also Jason McDonald, a parent leader with the University of Rochester Medical Center team. Maria Cruz, a PLTI parent leader with the Coldwater Parent Partnership team. Parajita Tuma Kurian with the University of Rochester Medical Center team. Linda Albert Gillis with the University of Rochester Medical Center team. Next slide. As well as Donna Thompson Bennett with the National Parent Leadership Institute, Carolyn Lee Davis with the National Parent Leadership Institute, and last but not least, Anita Black of the Greater Rochester Health Foundation. To learn more about each of these incredible speakers, we have a link to the bios that we'll send in the chat that you can download if you want to learn more about some of these great speakers that we have. Next slide. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Donna to get us started. I think you're muted, Donna, so we'll have you unmute.
Can you hear me now?
We heard you with an echo. I see you're trying to join by phone. Can you try without phone and just on computer? Okay, let's see. Carolyn, I don't know if you're able to jump in while we figure out Donna's.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Donna.
Iris, are you hearing me by phone or by the computer?
It looks like it's by the computer.
Okay. I apologize, everyone. I was having technical difficulties, and so I tried to dial in so that you would be able to hear me. If at any point you lose my voice, please let me know, and I will try to join back in. I'm excited to be here with other partners today. And so we welcome you to the Parent Partnership Initiative table for this particular session. Our tradition at MPLI is to begin any convening of partners in the space of acknowledging the land in which we find ourselves, no matter which corner of the nation we're in. We acknowledge the indigenous people who, because of their generosity and sacrifice, we are on the land in whatever corner of the country we are in. So we pause to ask you to think about who were the original people, the indigenous people in the land in which you sit to do your work on behalf of families, children, and community. I am in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the land of the Pocasets, the Golden Hill Pocasets to be particular. But today, because I know we are coming from all over this nation, I thought we should honor the largest nation in this country, known as the Cherokee. The Cherokee traditionally resided in North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, and I believe one other southern southern state. I apologize. Georgia is the other state. And I apologize, the phone technology thing threw me. So I'm going to take a deep breath as I ask you to acknowledge in gratitude the indigenous people of this land. We do this as a part of our work in democracy and racial equity. We recognize that we are all able to build in this nation because of those who set the pace for us and set the opportunity. The Cherokee have a phrase of gratitude that simply says, Ojali ki liga, Ojali ha liga, Ojali ha liga, which means we are grateful. And what's extra special about this phrase of gratitude is that they express it at the beginning of their new year, which often occurs in the month of October. And they use it as an expression throughout the year, whether it is good times or bad times, challenging times. MPLI and our partners today recognize that we as a nation are in the midst of challenging times. We are still experiencing the impact of the pandemic, which is global, of COVID-19, and the ongoing pandemic of racial injustice. We understand that this is a challenging time, and we are grateful in our field of parent leadership that there are parent leaders who are standing up, who are speaking out, who are advocating and partnering with others like our partners on this call to be able to have a positive impact on the education, health, and safety of our children, particularly. MPLI coordinates and increases the civic skills and impact of diverse parents, particularly parent leaders, to inform democracy as leading advocates for their children in their home, at school, and in community. MPLI knows that parent leaders working across race, gender, culture, language, social economics, and other differences have the power to generate equity opportunities and outcomes for all children and families, especially those who have been denied or had limited access because of their race. Race equity is both a value and a verb for MPLI, and that we are a nonpartisan, parent-centered, anti-racist organization that partners with parents and other organizational and community leaders to increase racial equity in policy and practice. Today, MPLI is honored to be a part of this funder group session that highlights such a partnership with the Greater Rochester Health Foundation. This partnership was designed to build parent voice in program and policy and decision-making of organizations within the Greater Rochester area. The Health Foundation invited health and community service grantees in Rochester to join a learning collaborative on partnering with parents as true partners. In doing the work, the foundation hired us as NPLI to provide the technical assistance. And as a result of that work, teams of staff and parents have come together to assess the organizational strengths and weaknesses and co-develop goals and to drive the change that they were seeking together as partners. This has been occurring since May of 2019 and will continue through December of this year. And we look forward to seeing what will even happen in the year of 21. Today, this experience you will hear highlights from, and we are joined, and I am honored to be a part of the partnership with parent leaders such as Matt DuPont and Jason McDonald, who will share their experience and perspective at the table, along with Maria Cruz, who is actually in a dual capacity, and I want you to hold at that slide, at a dual capacity role in that she is a parent leader who's been impacted by the system work, as well as she, like Toyin Anderson, is a parent facilitator. And then we will hear from grantees in terms of the staff leadership from the University of Rochester Medical Center and Linda Albert Gillis and Tuma Curion, and then from Anita Black from the Greater Rochester Health Foundation, and our lead consultant of MPLI, Carolyn Lee Davis. I am thrilled that we will start with parent voice because the whole session is centered around getting parents at the table and hearing that voice in order to plan and to make decisions that positively impact their children and families. Matt DuPont, one of the parent leaders in this partnership, wanted to be here so badly, and when his schedule wouldn't allow him to show up in person, he did a video. And so we go to Matt's video message and then on to Jason. Again, we are grateful to be sharing in this moment with you. Let's hear from Matt.
Hello, my name is Matt DuPont, and I am a parent partner in conjunction with MPLI and UVAR Strong. I'm here to speak to you today about my introduction and involvement with the National Parent Leadership Institute. I have two sons, both of them are on the autism spectrum. My eldest son, who was at 7th grade at the time, was being bullied severely by his classmates. One day and said, "Dad, I don't want to be alive anymore." I was appalled, I was confused, I did not know what to do. I know school typically isn't the easiest social setting, especially for kids who don't fit in to what is known as normal, but I wasn't expecting my 12-year-old to feel like there was no hope. In addition to working with the school to improve his conditions there, my wife and I contacted UR Strong to assist in our son working through his dire mindset. My family was put on a wait list, and as we all know, wait lists in these scenarios are tough. After being told it could take months to get him in to see someone, we didn't know what to do in the meantime. We searched online, but didn't know what sites were reputable or could help, what resources were available in our area, and a lot of it was just information overload. A week after we placed a call, I was contacted by Strong to see if I was interested in being a part of their new think tank group and provide insight on their programs. I looked at that phone call as an opportunity to help anyone who was, is, and could be in the situation that my family was in. I've been a part of the partnership between MPLI and Strong for over a year now, and since inception of the program, we have created a waitlist letter with resources on it for parents and caretakers. In addition to that, there's also a new cohesive list of resources on UR Strong's website for parents and caretakers to use while they're waiting to be seen by a professional. Groups such as the one I'm a part of are important because outside perspective tells us what can be improved on. I know if the letter and the resources were available to me when my family was going through a scenario, we would have used them without a doubt. My son's alive and thriving now, and he's being seen weekly. Just appreciate everything that MPLI and Strong has done and listened, and thank you for your time.
Hello. Hi, I'm Jason McDonald, and to follow Matt's story, I'd like to share my story as well. I'm a proud parent of a 16-year-old young man. We actually were blessed last month to share our 10th anniversary together of finalizing his adoption. He came to me when I was 31 years old. I'd never parented anyone besides my dogs. And so I had no parenting skills. I had tons of questions. He was going to school. Mind you, he was at the age of 6 years old when he came to me. He had been bounced around from foster home to foster home. Needless to say, he had some problems and some issues and concerns. And I didn't know how to get my voice heard loud enough. Luckily, I was connected with University of Rochester and got my son in to get services there. While I was getting services there for my son, I was also employed there. And one of my jobs were to do some phone screens where I got to hear parents express their concerns, try to get services for their children, which pushed me even more to want to make sure my voice was heard even louder. Sorry, I get choked up when I talk about my son. I want to make sure my voice is heard even louder. So when the opportunity came up for the for this parent group, I jumped on board because I wanted to make sure that I was doing my part. We have come to meetings, we sat at tables, and the meetings are very different. It's not like we're being talked to. We're doing the talking as parents. The parents, we're the higher ups in this situation. They want to hear what we have to say, and everything we do and say is taken all in consideration, and you can see the results of it. It's our voices actually being heard. There's a quote that I like to use or reflect on lots of times. And it says, someone is sitting under shade today or sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. When we get together at our meetings, it's always our goal to make sure that we're planting a seed for a tree. So a youth, someone's child, our children can have a brighter future. And I hope that today at the end of our meeting, that'll also be your goal, to plant a tree so someone else can have a brighter future. Thank you for listening.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Maria Cruz, and I had the privilege to benefit from this project in two ways: as a parent leader and as a parent. When you're a parent of a child that has a disability or a mental health condition, you can feel alone. And for many years, I had the UR staff and the therapist that I needed support from other parents. The fact that we were able to accomplish so much through this project, I felt like I was giving input. I felt like a parent that was heard. I felt validated. I felt included. I felt hopeful. By the end of this project, I feel a sense of accomplishment. The fact that all these parents worked together with the facilitators and were able to put in place the support that parents needed, so much needed, being parents of children that have specific needs. I felt heard and I felt included and supported, which is the most important thing. So I was blessed to enjoy that part as a parent. And thank you, Tojin, and the rest of the team. And now I'm going to pass it to Linda Alper-Gillis.
Hi, thank you, Maria. So I am Linda Alper-Gillis. I am Director of UR Medicine, Pediatric Behavioral Health and Wellness, which is the large outpatient service of the University of Rochester Medical Center that sees children and adolescents from birth to 18 with behavioral health challenges. We're a large service. We have 10 locations. And we see approximately 50,000 patient visits a year. So when this opportunity became available through the Greater Rochester Health Foundation, they were looking for projects to partner with parents. And I just said, this is perfect. We have to do this. So the decision to apply for this granting opportunity to empower diverse parent voice fit with our overall values of our service and organization. So I think that was key in our decision to apply. And in terms of developing the specific project, we used our existing family advisory board, which is primarily parents and caregivers of our diverse patient population, as well as some teens that are also members of our family advisory board. So with their input, we developed a project that you're going to be hearing a little bit more about in a moment from Dr. Tumakurian. But again, when you look at granting opportunities that go by, you're always trying to kind of squeeze yourself into what they're looking for to make a project go. And in this case, there was no squeezing involved. We were like thinking, finally, somebody is recognizing the importance of parent voice and wanting to expand our work in this area. So one of the things in implementing the project that I didn't quite anticipate was the technical assistance that we received from MPLI. That to me was really groundbreaking in many ways. And I appreciated the fact that the funder kind of set that up ahead of time, is that not coming from our individual grant project monies, but they were going to be providing the technical assistance for MPLI separately, a separate pot of money. And they provided trainings, day-long trainings, luckily in person at first, pre-COVID, and then monthly technical assistance through Toyin, who you'll hear from shortly, Toyin Anderson, who was the MPLI representative on our team. And I think what this did for me as a leader and as a service leader and as a researcher is it made me talk about parent voice everywhere I go. So it was always important to me. We had a family advisory board, but it was the connection to MPLI and their mindfulness about what they do, and you could hear that in the way Donna spoke about it, that made me bring that with me and internalize that in a much different way. And so what's interesting, at one point, the Greater Rochester Health Foundation said to us, we're willing to give you a very small addendum if you want to increase your work and continue through December. So it was originally supposed to end in June, and they said, we will fund you from July through December. Very small, I'm talking $16,000. I'm talking a very, very small amount of money. And my first question, Anita will share with you, is I want to hire NPLI to be part of the team, even if I have to use all my $16,000 to do it, because I feel like their voice was critical. And Anita said, oh no, we're going to continue paying for that as part of the project. And I'm like, okay, well, that was my first question. So I think another piece of this was funder flexibility. So in terms of working with the community, we not only worked with our parent groups, but we also worked with community-based organizations, the Mental Health Association here in Rochester, New York. And we had some challenges there in terms of implementing exactly what we were hoping to implement. And the first thing I thought of is we got to go to the funder and talk about this. We need to meet with Anita. And they're just flexibility about understanding when you're working with the community that sometimes you have to give and take a little bit. And I felt like that was very important in part of the process. So I feel like the project we've done has made me a more fervent believer in parent voice, and has led to systemic change within our organization, for which I will forever be grateful. And now I would like to pass it on to Toyin, I believe.
Okay, so my name is Tuma Korean. That's okay, Linda. I knew that I was up. So my name is Tuma Korean, and I'm a clinical psychologist at UR Medicine. And, I'm gonna now go into a little bit of the details about what change we were actually able to affect as a result of the partnership with NPLI, and really a partnership with Greater Rochester Health Foundation as well. So the first, initiative was the Strengthening Families Initiative. That was the initial reason for applying for the Partnering with Projects grant. And that was to bring an evidence-based intervention into our community. So, in our community, we don't have as many family groups that are evidence-based, and we really wanted to bring more of that to the Rochester community, since we saw that as a need, as Linda had mentioned, through the family advisory boards that we have. And U of R generally, also the psychologists there, we have connections within the community, so we have some understanding of what are the needs in the community. So this multifamily group is a intervention which allows us to help build family strengths and improve family communication. So we're really excited about getting trained for that, and more importantly, having a sustainable way to continue providing that resource in the community by having folks not only in our organization at U of R become trainers, but also become certified to train others and open it up to any other organization in the community that also wants to run the multifamily groups. So that was very exciting for us. So that was one of our projects, and we still run that today. So the Strengthening Family Groups is sustainable and continues. So the next one that we did was improve our resources for families, which really, improved the way we communicated our resources with families. One of the first things that we did once the NPLI Family Advisory Board was established was talk about this waitlist letter. And for a lot of families, when they receive a letter from us saying that you're waitlisted for services, it's kind of like this dreaded waitlist letter. And our original letter did offer other options for families, so other clinics that you can go to, but for a lot of reasons, sometimes families prefer to wait for services at our particular clinic. So as you heard Mr. DuPont mentioning that, how could we make it even friendlier or even more helpful for families who do get that letter and choose to wait for our services? So we decided to create a resource, sort of a resource list for families that was both now included in print on the waitlist letter, but also on a family resources website that we created that's open to anybody. And the way we developed these resources was asking our family advisory group, we all kind of look through the resources together and figure out which resources people would actually use. Because as Matt was saying, that it can be really overwhelming if you just use Google. You don't know what's vetted or not. So together, we took the practical aspects as parents. Does this website look like something you would actually use? And then also with our expertise as psychologists to figure out, yes, this is a vetted website. They're giving accurate information. And we combined our knowledge together to create a nice curated resource list. Which is available on our website, and anyone can look at that. And then the third thing that we did was create a parent support group for parents whose children receive services at our institutions. So through speaking with our NPLI meetings, our monthly meetings, we realized that a lot of parents who bring their children in for services could really benefit from even like an informal touch base with other parents. So, Linda, as our, fearless leader, said, sure, we'll figure out a way that our organization can provide this. And she really did jump in there with that. And we had clinicians who were very enthusiastic about helping run the parent support group. And we had advice from our NPLA advisory board about how we could effectively run a parent support group and make it so that it was informal enough that, any of the parents can stop by without necessarily, having to make an appointment for a month later. It's there and it's there for you. So a regularly scheduled parent support group. And the last thing that we are actually still currently in the middle of is called Community Conversations, which is a webinar that brings conversations about mental health to just to the public, so anyone can really join. And the topics were called from both some community-based research that we were involved in about what types of mental health topics are folks in the community kind of confused about or unsure about. And then also our parent advisory group, we were able to flesh out the ideas a little bit more and think about what type of format we would like this webinar and how we can represent diverse perspectives in our panels. So we have panelists that talk about a conversation related to child mental health every month. and we have a parent perspective on there, a community-based organization representative. Sometimes we have school representatives, and we also have a mental health professional as well. And we take questions from the community and create our presentation based on questions from the community. And folks can also ask questions during the webinar. So it's our way to bring information about youth mental health more to the forefront and easily accessible. So now I'm going to turn it over to Toyin so you can hear her perspective.
Hi, thank you for that. Hi, I'm so sorry that you couldn't hear from Toyin with her technology issues, but hopefully we can fill in some gaps for you. Toyin was the parent leader facilitator that was on the team for the U of R to help guide in the technical assistance pieces to support the work they were doing in order to infuse parent voice into their process, to be in co-creation around decision making. And I know that what she has to say is valuable, and that she would want to be speaking to you directly. As they figure out the technical assistance piece on the back end, I will jump in to share about the Health Foundation. So I work at the Greater Rochester Health Foundation. I'm a program officer for the Healthy Futures Strategy, which is the zero strategy. And right. What you have heard thus far is amazing experiences and exciting partnerships. And hearing those experiences from parents as well as the staff at the University of Rochester, there's lots of outputs around centering parents, building, wielding, and sharing power with parents in service design and organizations. These partnerships and relationships were built out of an understanding from community as well as from research that parents play a crucial role as agents of change in their children's lives, in their communities, and in child-serving systems. So we believe that parent and family leadership is a change lever for mitigating structural racism and advancing racial equity in organizations and systems that serve children and families. These efforts shared around capacity building for organizations was really an opportunity to uphold, to live into this value of centering parent partnership and decision making, and to really drive toward systems change. And hearing it laid out so beautifully, it seems like it was all thought out and planned out and on some strategic plan way ahead of time. But I'm going to humbly say it was not. And which actually leads to the importance and the value of relationship and co-creation. We started out understanding the why, the value, and it really fed into the what we do as funders and how we do it, but it was really an iterative process. We do grant making, right? So we used our grant making to elicit action and learning around centering parents. And at the same time as we were doing that RFP out and getting our grantees together, realized that we, as a foundation, had not yet infused parents into our process. So we included parents into the review panel process that we had for those grantees. So we intentionally built partnership. We sought out community and parent-led organizations and asked for help. We asked for help and asked for an infusion of support. And we chose to do different, right? As a funder, we expressed a willingness to be humble, to try, to get messy, and to take feedback and to make changes. And we chose to make a commitment to those new partnerships, those new relationships, really having parent leaders at the center. And that has continued as we've moved forward in other aspects of our funding world, including our strategy revision and implementation process. So this continual weaving in of these partnerships and this relationship to have community voice at the center. Relationships matter. I always would say to my kids as they grew up, what you say, how you say it makes a difference. And so does making sure that those who are most impacted by what we do have a say and have a power to make change. Carolyn?
Thanks, Anita. And next slide, please. Thanks so much. So I'm just going to quickly share a couple of our learnings because we want to be sure to get to questions and answers and a chance to dialogue and chat with all of you. So a couple of our learnings from the project so far. Number one, we had parents involved in every step along the way. So that was informing our work from the beginning. It was parents who really advocated that we have an equitable number ratio of parents to staff on every organizational team, so that the parent voice there wouldn't be token, but instead would really have an authentic voice and authentic presence there. We really thought it was important and found value in the teams assessing the organizational capacity. So we have a self-assessment for organizations to do to look at how they partner with parents, and everybody on the team completed that individually based on their experience of how they interact with the organization, either staff or as parents, and then they brought those together to think and learn together and think about how that influenced and helped them develop goals for where they wanted to get to from where they were now. And those conversations right away were some of the foundation and building of trust and relationship as people shared the different ways that they experienced the organization. Monthly meetings brought about this kind of small a accountability. Knowing that there was going to be a monthly meeting, we heard from staff that helped them make sure that they moved on some of their action steps before the next time that they were together. So not only did those meetings provide that chance for relationship building, shared vision, goals, moving things forward, but it also kept folks doing some of the work in between because they knew we'd all be meeting the next month to talk about it. And the last piece I would add is we had a mix in terms of these teams. There, in addition to the U of R team, there were 3 other organizations who were a part of this learning collaborative with us. Some of the teams had higher level organizational leadership on them, and some of them didn't. And we found that when that higher level organizational leadership was on the team, that was really critical to laying the groundwork for the impact that the project is having. So does it go beyond this project? Does it start to impact the organization, as well as the sustainability? If leadership is starting to be a part of these conversations and starting to shift some of the culture within the organization, that's powerful and starting to look for longer term impact and change. I'll pause there so we can move to questions and answers. Just want to close by offering gratitude to all of you for being in this conversation and being here with us. We'd love to hear any ahas that you might be having as you're hearing all of this from us, but would also really love to hear your questions and what else we might be able to answer or share with you.
Great. So thank you so much, Carolyn. So this is the part where if you have questions, feel free to add them in the chat box. Or if you want to share your, if you're not into typing and you just want to dive into conversation, we can unmute you. So just request to be unmuted by clicking the little microphone next to your name, and we can go ahead and let you share your question with our panelists.
I saw one question in the chat box earlier about how we had parents join the Family Advisory Board. So Linda and I could speak to that. Since the project was about improving our organization, so that's UR Medicine, Pediatric Behavioral Health and Wellness, our relationship with the families that join our services and the community. We started by reaching out to the families that connect with us through their child services, and we kind of made an announcement at staff meetings to clinicians, letting them know that we have a family advisory board that we're starting up, and do they know of any parents or families that might be interested in participating. We were also running our Strengthening Families group as well, so we had a group of families that were already involved, and we also let them know. So we basically spread the word.
Hi, I was just going to say, so there's kind of 2 groups. So we have an existing group, the Family Advisory Board, and the way we recruit those people is we have brochures in our waiting area, and then periodically I give 1 brochure to every clinician and say, find at least 1 parent that you would like to share this with to increase our presence of different kinds of families on the Family Advisory Board. And then for this specific project, we had a separate family advisory group, a parent advisory group that we again ask clinicians to reach out to parents that might be interested in that as well. Also, we hand out things to our families, like whether it be like an annual health assessment or things like that. And on those things, we always say, are you interested in joining our family advisory board? And if so, you know, tell your clinician or leave this slip of paper at the front desk. So one of the things that the funding enabled us to do in this particular situation was to give a small stipend to parents to participate in our parent advisory group for this project. And that felt really good. So in addition to parents like Jason, who have long volunteered on our family advisory board, we were able to offer another opportunity for him to participate, but also providing him with some stipend to thank him for his time and commitment for this special group. So I really appreciated the ability to provide that for the families in our parent advisory group.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I don't see any other questions, but one question that I had, and I think perhaps this could be for everybody, but curious how the team has really adapted in the current climate of COVID, as well as this economic crisis and racial reckoning moment that we're in, and just to hear a little bit more about how that's impacted the work that you've been doing.
Well, besides occasional Zoom technical difficulties, it had actually gone quite well. So even for our family advisory board, as well as our family advisory group, we're meeting by Zoom. And that has enabled more parents to participate because they don't have to find childcare for their kids. They don't need to figure out transportation to get there. And so it's actually been a positive thing. I mean, we like being together and we like meeting face to face, but I would say it has removed some of the barriers for families to participate, which has been great. Another thing I would just add to what I had said before about the Family Advisory Board and the Family Advisory Group is that we feel it's important to overrepresent people from diverse backgrounds or minority backgrounds, underserved populations in our family voice activities. And that this fits well with our racial justice lens that we take. But we feel like it's really important that the people that comprise a family advisory board and family advisory group reflect the population that you serve. And if that is a diverse population, to overrepresent underrepresented people. So they are in the majority in that space to provide more comfort and more empowering of that voice.
Thanks so much,
Linda,
Linda.
with that said, Carolyn, I was going to invite Maria's voice back in. I don't know if Toyin has been able to share to address how she's adjusted as a parent leader facilitator, since we didn't get to the technical difficulty. So I don't know if Maria is still on and if is able to unmute to also answer that question after you respond, Carolyn.
I was literally going to ask Maria to join in. So we're on the same wavelength, Donna. Maria, please join in.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So yes, so the experience was amazing as a parent leader, as a liaison, being the middle person between staff and parents. My experience was amazing. The fact that I was able to experience the transformation that was taking place right in front of my eyes, how these parents and the staff at the beginning were like rubbing, characters and rubbing they have all these differences that they could not communicate, and all these barriers were able to be torn down like right in front of me. I saw the communication changing. I actually, as I continue to work with the team, I can see how the parents were more open to the staff. The staff were able to work together with the parents to create changes in this house. I was working at a shelter for women and children, and you can imagine all the challenges that the staff had, being that the families were so traumatized. But the fact that the families were able to put all the trauma aside, and the power battle stopped, and they were able to communicate and create changes that are still permanent in this house, and there's still families that are benefiting from these changes. So the parents that participated in my team, they no longer are in the shelter. The shelter has a 90 days turnaround, and the families created so many changes that are still in place for new families to come in and benefit from those changes. After the relationship that they develop with this program, with this partnership project, I still see the staff going above and beyond for their families, for these families that no longer live in this program, but they still go ahead and make sure that they're okay, that they have food in the refrigerator, that they have furniture and things like that. You can still see the parents that participated in this project reaching out to the staff for questions, for advice, for whatever it is, and it didn't have to be necessary related to cold water or the project or anything like that. The relationship and the bond they created is unbreakable. The fact that these families were able to create these amazing changes, they are so proud of what they have done. The biggest experience that I have is that one of these parents that participated in this program, she is paying it forward right now, and she is working at a shelter for women. So it's amazing the transformation that happened right before our eyes. So I was blessed to benefit as a parent because of U of R, and I'm glad that I didn't choose to work with U of R, and I was able to experience this transformation as a parent and also as a parent leader. So yeah, the project, kudos to the Greater Rochester Health Foundation, because what they're doing is giving parents a voice, which is very important when it comes to services that affect our children, that affect directly to parents and families. So the fact that parents were able to be brought over and they were given a voice, it was significant. So thank you very much, Greater Rochester Health Foundation.
Thanks, Maria. I see there's a question in the chat from Margarita about how we determined the amounts of stipends. And so just speak to that real quick and then see if there's anybody else from the team who wants to join in on that too. So there were a few things we did around supporting parents participating in this and reducing barriers around participation. So looking at meeting times, so scheduling the meetings with parents around what time is going to work for schedules. When there's evening meetings, providing dinner, providing childcare when it was needed, transportation, being ready to provide translation if it was needed. So we were really creating a welcoming space for staff and parents to come together to build this relationship and move forward. And the parent stipend was especially to honor the knowledge, expertise, and time that parents were bringing to the table. So as staff were being honored as part of their work, wanting to not treat parents as volunteers, but honoring with compensation their time and knowledge and experience as well. And so for the regular months where it was one meeting a month, we took into account both the timing of the meeting, the transportation time to get to the meeting if folks were driving there, leaving work to get there, as well as there was often, some planning time in between meetings, things to think about, things to react to over email, looking at things. So we assumed it was a good few hours a month, and we did a monthly regular stipend of $100 a month for parents being involved that way. And then when there was more than one meeting a month, we would increase that stipend. So that's the way we approached that. Anyone else, anything would add from the team in terms of supports or the stipend? Okay, then I'm gonna go, there's a question from Michael. Did you experience any pushback from clinical staff or other challenges implementing the program? And if so, how did you address them? So Tuma or Linda, anything you would offer that way?
As a clinical staff member myself, I could say, no, there wasn't pushback. I think that often you'll find that folks and as a psychologist, I want to do this kind of work, and many of our staff members want to do this kind of work. So I think the funding from the Greater Rochester Health Foundation allowed Linda to be able to carve out time in our schedules to do the work we so badly wanted to do and work with families. So, and then as we, Linda was mentioning that we haven't stopped in our organization, and we continue to do additional initiatives that are influenced very intentionally by parent voice. I think as an organization, we were always interested in parent voice and wanted that, and many of our staff members reflected that. But to have an official space and an official name to an initiative that really gave staff members the ability to participate, and also organizationally probably helped Linda assign folks officially to, yes, you can, when you have someone in charge of an initiative, it tends to get done a little bit smoother. So I think that was very helpful.
Yeah, and I would just add, thanks, Tuma. I would just add that, so we really try to play to staff strength and empower staff voice, along with parent voice. And so staff were invited to participate in this. They weren't required to participate in it, and we had more volunteers than we could take, so to speak. So we actually trained more people than we needed, with the idea that they could potentially be helpful down the road, and it would also add to their professional development goals. The other thing, I think it affected staff in that parents have been very pleased to participate, and I think they reporting back with the clinicians that they work with their families, the feedback was all good. And I think the clinicians really were very satisfied that it was a good experience for our parents that were participating, and they were glad they could give them this voice and amplify their voice.
Oh, I think, Donna, you might be muted.
Was Toyin able to get back in to offer any final comments?
Yes, I've been here, Miss Donna. I don't know what went wrong, but I apologize for everything. But I don't know, did Carolyn pick up, because I wasn't able to pick up on anything that I was supposed to report out on?
I did.
Anita shared something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Carolyn as well. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Yeah, we picked up a little bit, Toyin, but if we're almost at time, if there's a parting thought that you'd really love the group to hear, I would invite you to share it.
Just one important note that's always resonated with me through this entire process was how the U of R embraced the suggestions and ideas that the parents brought forward. And because of the collaboration, the true partnership that came out of our project, we can positively see the wonderful results for parents that's going to be impacted now and all the way into the future, because of literally the systemic changes that these wonderful parent leaders have helped to implement. So I just wanted to drive the point home that when we get together and allow parents in the space as a true expert that they are of their own situations and families, these are the results that we could have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Toyin. Well, I know that we are just at about time, but appreciate everybody being on. In just a moment, I'm actually going to have folks just quickly fill out a quick poll for us. And then next slide. So we hope that this discussion has really inspired you to think about new ways to wield and share power to amplify the expertise and voice of parents in your communities. And so we do encourage you to apply some of the practices and learnings from today in your work. We will send out the recording with some additional resources that these teams have put together. And if you'd like to stay connected with the learning community, there are a number of ways to get involved, including becoming a member to access our learning community with other events and resources. And we do have a virtual funder discussion next week to think about how to change culture and mindsets in philanthropy to better trust and center parents. And next slide. So on behalf of the funders group, I do want to thank our panelists and everybody on the line for joining us and really participating in this important discussion, and for bearing with all the technology issues. It was a really great conversation, and we're really excited to share the resources from today. So thank you so much for participating, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Iris and team, and everyone for joining us.
Thank you all. Be well.